Fine. Hello everyone, my name is Caden K from Hide and welcome to a brand new video. As usual, grab your blankets and grab your snacks and get comfortable because today we're going into another Iceberg. Yay, fun, right? This is one that I actually made myself and it covers internet rabbit holes. And in all honesty, I thought this one was rather fun to create. I think it'll be very fun to look into and I'm really going to enjoy going through all of these rabbit holes and stuff like that. Now, before we start, I want to talk a little bit about like why these are rabbit holes per se. So obviously, you can look into something and you can understand it on like a basic surface level kind of way. But you can also look into it a little bit deeper and you start learning more and you start understanding more. And then it just starts piling on and it can go deeper. So that's something that I felt like I wanted to embody in a way in an iceberg. It's something that's relatively easy to look at on a surface level, but once you start going deeper and deeper, it can get a little hectic and get a little crazy. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, here is the internet rabbit hole iceberg. For tier 1, we're going to start off really simple. I don't want to clog your mind with a bunch of crazy things that'll lead you down super crazy paths. This is going to be stuff that's relatively easy to digest. The first thing for tier 1 is FNAF lore. Five Nights at Freddy's lore. Wow, Caden, this is so crazy. This is so intense and so deep. I know, that's why I put it here. If you've never heard about FNAF lore or don't even know like anything about it, you're probably living under a rock. I'm sorry, it's just the simple truth. The FNAF lore gets crazy and it gets really extensive really quickly, so I'm gonna try to keep it as simplified as possible. So in the early 80s, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria opened, and so did Fredbear's Family Diner. And around the time of the opening to 1983, William Afton decided to just murder 6 kids. And one of the souls of the kids went into this puppet, which then gave the rest of the 5 children's souls life by putting them into animatronic suits, which is, Bonnie, Freddy, Chica, the people. In 1983, a child was bitten by Fredbear in Fredbear's Family Diner, and as a result, they had to close down their shop. Shortly after, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria followed suit. Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria decided to open another shop with a new line of animatronics, a lot cuter and a lot more presentable. William Afton, being the great man that he is, decided to just have a frickin' field day and kill 5 more kids. I mean, why not just be a normal human, have a job, go home to your wife, go home to your kids, just murder 5 children, so that's pretty cool. This location then had to be closed down because of the Bite of 87? Everything else onward gets really convoluted and really crazy, and you need to know a lot of lore about the game, and I frankly don't want to spend 5 hours talking about Five Nights at Freddy's lore. I mean, have you seen Matt Pat's videos? He's been doing this for like 8 years now, and he's like still not done. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't go into every little bit of lore about Five Nights at Freddy's, so we're gonna move on to the next one. The next thing on the tier is salad fingers. And if you don't know what salad fingers is, I mean, you're probably sleeping under a rock as well. This is really surface level. How do you not know salad fingers? The first salad fingers video came out in around July of like 2004. And I believe the final episode aired in like 2014 or something like that. It went on for a good time. And the creator occasionally released stuff. I believe it was like every so years or something like that. Salad fingers is very easy to understand on a surface level sense. Just watch the videos. Whoa, it's creepy. And then you're done. But if you want to go a little deeper, there is a lot of lore to Salad Fingers. Salad Fingers throughout the entire series mentions things of a great war that happened that left the entirety of this place of living, which I believe is like the UK or some sort of like, I guess like something that can be a parallel to that. And this great war left everything desolate. And as a result, now he lives with a bunch of really weird creatures and such. The entire story is very weird. Salad Fingers definitely has a very odd personality to him. Salad Fingers definitely seems to struggle with something up here. It seems to be some sort of combination between schizophrenia, depression, anxiety, and much more. It also seems to be the case that he has a multiple personality disorder. There's many instances where he's talking out of character, or he might speak in like kind of third person. Salad Fingers is a very odd series, but there's a little bit of charm to it all. Salad Fingers definitely didn't freak me out, but it's still kind of weird if you've never seen it before. So Salad Fingers is one that you can get pretty deep into if you decide to take the time to look into it. It's a very weird series, but it's definitely worth the watch if you've never seen it before. The next thing that we got on the tier list is creepypastas. Yes, the good old days of the internet. This was like my favorite era of the internet. I loved this time of YouTube when it was just everywhere. It was Slenderman, it was Jeff the Killer, it was The Rake, it was just whatever. Everything was creepypasta related, and it was so awesome. And if you don't know what a creepypasta is basically just it's not necessarily a collection of stories, but individual stories that are meant to be pretty scary. Kind of like urban legends in a way. Stuff that's supposed to be told at the campfire. Now, of course, creepypastas don't they're not real, obviously, but they're still very fun to look into. You can get really deep with creepypastas. You can find a bunch of very rare and obscure ones that not a lot of people necessarily talk about. Creepypastas are a lot of fun, and if you've never read a creepypasta before, what are you doing? It's so awesome. Creepypastas are fascinating things, and if you've never read one, read one or listen to them. There's so many videos from that era of YouTube around. And I'm pretty sure people are still pumping out content pertaining to those things. So just check it out. It's so cool. Creepypastas are a lot of fun. The next thing that we have on the tier list is the SCP Foundation. As I said, with the FNAF lore and Salad Fingers, if you've never heard of the SCP Foundation, you're probably sleeping under a rock. Sorry. SCP stands for Secure, Contain, and Protect. And essentially what they do is all sorts of anomalies or weird creatures from around the world, they will cage them and contain them and essentially just make sure that they don't get out. Some are peaceful, some don't really do much, some are just like a toaster, some are just like a TV. But others, like SCP-173, if you look away for a quick second, your neck's gone. So, SCPs tend to vary on the danger level. The SCP Foundation lore is very, very extensive. There are countless videos. There's countless things on forums. There is a lot. There is a lot about SCP Foundation. There's countless games. I remember back in the day, I used to watch Markiplier play games on the SCP Foundation. There are a lot of things pertaining to the SCP Foundation. If you're interested, there are millions of sources. There are hundreds and thousands of things that you can look into to learn more about it. But overall, it's very creepy, and I remember being super freaked out as a kid when I was looking into it. I remember there was a point in time, because with the SCP Foundation, what they do is they strive to make it seem as realistic as possible. So when they do a case study on a certain SCP, it's not just all right, well, this is what he looks like, move on. No, there's lab reports and stuff like that. There's sightings. There's so much. And I remember being so freaked out when I was young because I was like, dude, SCP, oh my god, SCP-173 is gonna find me, it's gonna snap my neck. Obviously it never happened because it's not real, but they do a really good job of making it seem real, and it freaks me out still. In Tier 2, we get to start off with Everywhere at the End of Time. If you've never heard of Everywhere at the End of Time, maybe you struggle with the thing that the album's trying to detail. Everywhere at the End of Time is regarded as one of the most haunting pieces of music ever created. This collection of music is over 6 hours long, and it details the stages of dementia. It's very dark, and it's a very hard listen. The first album starts off very bright and kind of sunny in a way, but there's still a hint of darkness to it all, and then it starts just piling on more and more. The music becomes more distorted, more disorienting, and it eventually hits a point that you're just listening to just white noise. It's no longer music, and it's terrifying. it is a terrifying and very hard listen. After like the first 2 hours or something to that effect, it starts to settle in what's happening to you, and it hurts. This album is untouchable to a lot of people. They don't want to listen to it because of the weight and magnitude that it has. And frankly, I don't blame them. This album is a very, very hard listen. I remember listening to it myself, and I struggled to get through it a lot of the time. It's definitely an interesting listen, but just when you get into Everywhere at the End of Time, you are going to research insanely. You are going to do insane and extensive amounts of research in it. So, I mean, if you're interested in going down the rabbit hole, go for it. But understand, once you get in, it's going to be really hard to get out. The next thing on the iceberg is 4chan. I made this pretty vague because I know that 4chan's an interesting place. Now, of course, 4chan has like their anime section and manga section where, people can go complain about the recent Attack on Titan ending if they want to. Then they also have the section where, you can witness people die. Or, you can see people post revenge pornography. Or whatever you want to see, you can probably find it on 4chan. And of course, with 4chan, it gets wild a lot of the time. If you want to see people say the N-word freely and loosely, like it's just a casual thing, you can do that on 4chan, on Politically Incorrect. Don't go on there. Politically Incorrect is a cesspit. That's fun. 4chan is essentially built different. I feel like that's the best way to put it. 4chan is built different. There's countless stories of killers going on there, or people that are planning shootings going on there, etc., etc. 4chan is just a cesspit. It's wild. Of course, there's like the more normal sections, as I said, like the anime part. Even then, there's still like loonies in there. So, I mean, 4chan's something else. Another segment of the iceberg is 3 a.m. YouTube. Now, I'm not talking about watching those dudes that are like building pools at 3 a.m. That's the cool part of 3 a.m. YouTube. And I mean, like, it's nothing crazy. It's just like, wow, this is just fascinating stuff. And then you wake up in the morning, you're like, why did I watch these dudes build pools? And why did I do that? I'm talking about the 3 a.m. YouTube where it's, I feel fantastic. Hey, hey, hey. Or the hand thing. The hand thing. I'm talking about that type of 3 a.m. YouTube. The YouTube where you stumble across it and you're wondering, how did I get here? Why am I here? Should I leave? Should I continue watching this stuff? We've all stumbled across those wild and weird videos though. And it 9 times out of 10 makes you feel unnerved and weird and creeped out. And that's why I felt 3 a.m. YouTube was worth putting on here, because it doesn't affect you personally. It's not like you're gonna wake up the next day and freak out. 3 a.m. YouTube is something else. The next part of the iceberg is Jonestown. If you've never heard of Jonestown, I have a video on it that you can watch that I've linked right there. Why don't you click that? You can watch my Jonestown video. You can watch my Jonestown. In all seriousness though, since I have made a video on this, I'm going to try to keep this as digestible as possible. Put it simply, here we go. Jim Jones creates a church. He gets a bunch of followers. He moves his followers to California. His church then starts getting investigated because there's human abuse allegations and stuff like that. He then decides to move his followers to a socialist utopia, essentially on the other side of the world, called Jonestown. From there, he went crazy. He decided to kill off his followers and eventually shoot himself in the head, leaving a bunch of his followers to die by injecting this toxic concoction. And then, obviously he died because he shot himself in the face. So, yeah. Is that bite-sized enough? Jonestown is something else. Jonestown is very easy to fall into and get into the rabbit hole of. There is a lot of messed up stuff with Jonestown, which is why you should watch my video on it. The next thing that we have on the tier list is Columbine. Now, Columbine is very easy to just get surface level knowledge on. Okay, who shot at the school? Eric and Dylan. Okay. How many victims? 13? Okay. Done. Once you get into the loop of learning about Columbine, you start tending to come back to it. At least that's how it was for me. That's what got me into the true crime community after all. So once I started learning about Columbine, it all started going downhill from there, per se. I started learning more about the lost media side of Columbine, the hours of news footage that was never archived, leaked audio of Eric and Dylan's tapes that they had created leading up to the shooting. There's countless things that Columbine has, and it feels like once you know something, it leads you down 3 other rabbit holes of more things that you don't know or you're wanting to know. So Columbine is very easy to fall into, and it's what got me into the true crime community. So I can kind of vouch for the fact that the rabbit hole is very much existent. In Tier 3, we start off with Junko Furuta. As I mentioned with Jonestown, I have a video on this. You can check somewhere around my face if you want to get into it, but to keep it as bite-sized as possible so you can get a general understanding of what happens, Junko gets kidnapped and spends 44 days in essentially hell. She's tortured, beaten, whipped, whatever you can think of, and is eventually killed. Now, I bet you're thinking, dude, 44 days, there's clear evidence that the people that did it. There's no way they're getting out of jail. They got off like scot-free. So it's a failure of the judicial system. And I mean, it's over the sea laws and stuff like that. So, I mean, their laws are different there. So, I don't know. It's just that, like, when you look into what happens and what happened and all the horrible, disgusting things that happened, it leaves you feeling sick. And there's a lot of movies, there's a lot of documentaries and stuff like that on this. So the rabbit hole gets very, very deep if you want to start looking into Junko and what happened to her. Unit 731 is essentially like a biological experimentation center. Okay, a biological testing center. Okay, that can't be too bad. I'm assuming they're testing on like rats and stuff like that, just to see like, okay, maybe this works, or okay, inject this pig with a thing. Maybe that'll do something. No, they're just using humans. Women were impregnated forcefully. They were forced to have abortions without anesthesia. People were just having bombs thrown at them because why not? It was hell on earth, to put it simply and put it nicely. The people that were in there were often used as targets. They were essentially just like guinea pigs in a way. Flamethrowers were used on them to test their lethality. Bombs were used on them to test their lethality. It was just an entire mess. And it's genuinely horrible looking into it all. There's countless books, there's countless documentaries, there's countless videos. This stuff gets deep really, really quickly. And I feel like the hardest part about all of this is the fact that the scientists that were doing these things were never like short of people. If one dude died, guess what? They had another. Oh God, it's just pretty cool stuff. So the next thing that we got on the tier list is disturbing movies, Iceberg. Caden, are you putting an iceberg in an iceberg? Yeah, I know, it is. Look, here's my reasoning. Hear me out at least on my reasoning. Once you kind of get into the disturbing movies iceberg, it's kind of hard to get out. If you've ever seen one, you tend to look at like, all right, well, what's in tier 9? Whoa, all this stuff, let's watch it all. And then you want to find more things that are messed up and horrible and disgusting. So you'll watch other videos and what other people think is horrible and disgusting and gross and vile and cool. So that sounds like a rabbit hole to me. So, I mean, with every iceberg, they're different. So every person has their own, like, I guess, rating system on what they feel is most gross or the most disgusting. So, I kind of consider that to be a rabbit hole. Don't get mad at me. I will start crying right now. The next thing that we got in this tier are cannibal forms. And I'm not lying. I kind of kept this one a little vague for a reason because, I mean, obviously, it's going to be hard to find just like a standard cannibal form right now. But like in the early 2000s, there was this thing called the Cannibal Cafe where you can go on there and just start talking about it and stuff like that. So we got that, but I'm pretty sure there's like probably stuff on the dark web or the deep web and stuff like that that has forums that you can discuss on. But this is kind of kept vague for a reason because, you know, it can kind of apply anywhere, really. But one of the examples that I do want to discuss, though, is the Cannibal Cafe. So this guy named Armin, in around 2001 to 2002, I believe, went onto the Cannibal Cafe website and just posted an ad, like saying, like, hey, I'm just looking for somebody to eat. So, I mean, if you're down to get ate, just like hit me up. I don't know, lol, here's my email. And shockingly enough, he found a guy. Was just like, yeah, dude, I'm down. Let's do this. So he gets this dude, go to Armin's place. Guy chops his wang off, and he's like, all right, well, let's eat it. Turns out it's too freaking chewy, so they fry it, and then his buddy's like, oh, dude, like, I'm bleeding out, man. This kind of sucks. Here, let me set you in an ice bath. Oh, okay. Sets the man in an ice bath. Oh, okay, I guess you're going to bleed out there and die. Oh, you're dead? That's fine. Let's just put you on a freaking meat hook. Oh, okay, we're going to put you on a meat hook. We're going to skin you. We're going to take all your meat. We're going to take all the organs and stuff like that. This Armin dude just ate it. Just ate it over the course of like a few months. And then the police just show up and they're like, hey, dude, we have like reason to believe that you like ate this guy. And he's just like, yeah, lol. All right, take me in. But it was consensual. The whole case is wild. Just look up like Cannibal Cafe Armin, and I'm pretty sure you'll find like news articles and stuff like that on it. The entire thing is wild, and it's real too. So we got that. In Tier 4, we have the Blue Whale Challenge. If you've never heard of the Blue Whale Challenge, maybe that's a good thing. The Blue Whale Challenge circulated around 2016, 2017, and it resulted in the deaths of a lot of innocent people. The whole challenge basically revolves around a lot of self-mutilation and self-harm. A lot of the tasks that you have given during the 50-day challenge is harming yourself, carving something into your hand with a razor, or putting something on your arm with a razor. A lot of it is just self-harm. And this challenge has led to the deaths of innocent people. This entire challenge is horrible. It's messed up and it's disgusting. If you look up the like Blue Whale 50-day like checklist, you'll find all of the disgusting things that are on there. I don't want to list off every single thing and stuff like that because I get grossed out reading it. But to put it simply, at the end of the 50 days, you're supposed to jump from a height and end your life. That's the Blue Whale Challenge. This entire thing is disgusting. And the fact that people have lost their lives over it is even more disgusting. The Blue Whale rabbit hole is deep and it's extensive. It's very hard reading about the innocent life that was lost because someone from like some alt on like 4chan or something like that was pressuring some innocent people into doing something. It's awful. The next thing that we have on the tier list is hired hitmen. Now, here's the thing about hired hitmen. There have been no substantiated cases or evidence of hired hitmen being a real thing, so take all of this with a grain of salt as I begin to talk about it. So one of the biggest things that you find on the internet are people talking about the deep web or the dark web is that like, dude, there's like red rooms and there you can hire hitmen and there's like the weed, you can find like weed and get like crack. Okay. Let's just break this down simply. We're talking about the hired hitman. Let's just talk about the hired hitman, right? As I mentioned before, there have been no substantiated cases or evidence supporting the fact that you can hire a hitman off the deep web. But the main premise is that you would go onto the deep web, you could hire a hitman to do your dirty work. So let's just say you're at school and Brian Bryanson is taking all of your lunch money. You can go on the deep web. You can give him like 5 Bitcoin and say, I need you to take out Brian Bryanson because he's taking my lunch money. Obviously, you know, there's like choices. You can say like, make it look like an accident or make it look intentional. Like, yeah, like his was clearly a murder or something like that. Like, there's many different ways that you can go about the whole like hitman type thing. But the biggest thing that these hitman things like really are is the fact that it's just what these things are called honeypots. If you don't know what a honeypot is, it's essentially like it's like a sting operation. So you give your money to them, say like, hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z for me, take care of the job. And then next thing you know, the FBI is kicking down your door. So that's basically what it is. But yeah, there seems to be no substantiated cases of hired hitmen. But there are interesting stories that you can read about the hired hitmen. The thing is, though, is that a lot of it is just speculation. It's probably 95%, no, not even 95, 99% just honeypots. The next thing that we have on the list is bug chasers. And if you don't know what a bug chaser is, to put it simply, a person that doesn't have HIV is trying to get it. Here's the thing with every single bug chaser in the world. Not every bug chaser is doing it because they want the thrill of just potentially risking getting HIV. For some people, they just want to get it over with. They want that lingering idea of it might happen to just cease. But there's also these people that are I think they're called gift givers or something to that effect, where they provide other people with HIV. And then there's subsections of that where people will actively try to give people HIV without letting them know that they have it. This gets deep and it gets wild. It's not as simple as just saying, I just want to get it over with. There are people like that. There are people that are just like, look, dude, I just don't want to take the risk anymore. Let's just take the chance. Just give it to me, and then we'll be fine. We'll be clear. Who cares, right? But then there's the other people that are maliciously trying to give it to other people, and it's like, dude, what? The next thing that we have on the tier list is the Christchurch shooting. This entire thing is awful, and it's genuinely disgusting. It gives you a first-person view of a man slaughtering innocent people. It's awful. It's genuinely one of the most disturbing bits of footage you can ever see. The footage is so raw, and it's really hard to watch. The video is pretty hard to find. I believe there's a thing that the government, the New Zealand government was like, hey, if you post this, you're gonna get in trouble. At least that's what I believe. I forget the details now, but the video is pretty difficult to find. I imagine if you go to some bootleg website, you're gonna find it somewhere, but the whole bit of footage is just horrible, and it's disgusting. The fact that he leaves for a bit, not even leaving for 5 minutes, he just leaves the main room, then comes back just to reshoot the people to make sure they're dead. It's hard. It's genuinely one of the most disturbing bits of footage I've ever seen, and if you can stomach it, I mean, good for you, but the footage is awful. Learning about this dude it's just tough. Reading about it on the Wikipedia, hearing the interviews and stuff like that of the people is just really, really hard. And this is probably one of the ones that I highly advise you to not watch or try to actively pursue. If you haven't seen it, just keep it like that, man. Just keep it like that. The next thing that we have on the tier list is the deep web. Wow, Caden, this is pretty vague. It's almost like you covered a deep web topic before you even got to the deep web. All right. The deep web has its creepy sites. It has its honeypots, whatever. The deep web is an odd place, but it's not something that people should necessarily put on such a high pedestal. The deep web has creepy stuff. I'm not going to sit here and lie. Deep web is pretty creepy. There's a bunch of weirdos around the world, right? But I'm also not going to downplay the deep web either. There's a reason why people say to boot up Tails with a thumbstick drive, and then use a VM, and then use Tor. There's a reason that you want to be so safe and protected on there, because, hey, guess what? Your life is kind of important. There's malicious people around the world, so obviously you want to do it safely. I'm not going to sit here and say, man, people are hyping up the deep web. I just go on there with my regular Windows machine. No, don't do that. What I'm saying is that while it's not necessarily as crazy as people like to make it seem to be. It's definitely still a dark place. Obviously, you want to go on there with some sort of protection. You want to be careful and you need to be safe. You can find creepy stuff, but the thing is that you're not going to be finding like anything super crazy unless you kind of look for it, in my opinion at least. But of course, there are still illegal things on there, like the Silk Road, for example, if you want to buy like some hard rock crack or something like that, or like meth. There are still like sites and stuff on there that are illegal. Like I remember there was this one that some ordinary gamers discovered, which was like, I think you could buy just weapons or like fake money and stuff like that. I don't know how like real it was. I mean, I don't know if he was to like buy it, you'd actually get the items that you're buying. But, you know, there are still creepy things and bad things like that. So I think the deep web needed a spot on here. But as long as you're doing it safely, you can browse there just fine. It's just that it's the dummies that will go in on their main system without like a VM or without Tails or without... yeah. In Tier 5, we have Mariana's Web. We've got the clear web, which is the stuff that we tend to browse. We got the deep web, we got the dark web, and then we got Mariana's Web. What's in Mariana's Web? This one tends to lead a little bit more into the speculation idea. So take everything that I say with a grain of salt here. Don't take it as like, this is 100% factual because I watched that Caden dude say it, so it's true. Take it with a grain of salt. So obviously Mariana's Web is derived from the term Mariana's Trench, which is the deepest part of the ocean that we've discovered. So, you know, Mariana's Trench, Mariana's Web, it's the deepest part of the web. So as I mentioned before, Mariana's Web is the deepest part of the internet. What is in there is something that we don't necessarily know. This can be government information. This can be conspiracy stuff like alien proof or proof of alien life or whatever the case may be. Mariana's Web has yet to be discovered. We don't necessarily know what's in Mariana's Web. Again, speculation. It's this idea that it's so far, we don't know what's in it. Like, you know, we've reached Mariana's Trench before. Like, we can observe the bottom of Mariana's Trench, but a lot of the life down there isn't really observed as much. Not every single bit of life in the ocean has been observed. So we don't necessarily know what's in Mariana's Web. That's what is really fascinating about it. It's this idea of, well, there's probably something there. It's just, what is there? The next thing that we got on the tier list is Sad Satan. If you've never heard of this game, maybe that's a good thing. So Sad Satan is a very deep rabbit hole to get into. And in all honesty, I did a good chunk of research on it, but I still feel like even I don't have a firm and solid grasp on what exactly Sad Satan has to offer per se. So Sad Satan, the original game, tends to just play out like this. You're walking around and they're just trying to be really edgy. Here's a pedophile. Oh, scary. Here's a flashing image. Whoa, scary. Nothing too bad. But then later, a person on 4chan said, wait, the person that made this game seems to be hiding something. There's got to be something deeper than this. So they dug deeper. They went into, I'm assuming what had to be the source code or something. Maybe they were like data mining. I'm unsure what they were doing. But they went in and they found the true game. Now, Sad Satan has many versions of this game. Some YouTubers have content of them playing it because the original game isn't actually like super bad. It's just edgy, to put it simply. It's just edgy. But the original game, like the true game, has like flashing imagery and child pornography and like hardcore gore, and yeah. Sad Satan is something else. The next thing that we got on the tier list is seized websites. The seizure of websites isn't necessarily uncommon. Sometimes domain names will just be taken because, hey, this seems illegal, we're gonna take that. But then you go into places like the deep web, where people are selling guns, or they're trying to advertise like a red room or something like that, and then those websites get taken down. Seized websites are vague for a reason, because a lot of the seized websites that are known were like told. But what about the ones that haven't been told? What about these super disgusting child pornography rings and stuff like that that are seized that have never been told about ever? The idea of seizing websites isn't necessarily uncommon. It's something that they do a lot down in the dark web, deep web realm. There's one website that was seized that literally just sold like hacks. Like, hey, you want to get into this bank account? Well, give me $2K and I'll do it for you. Like, huh? What? So essentially paying some other dude to do your dirty work is, I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing these websites have been seized, right? And tier 6, we start off with Cruel Onion Wiki. Now, I know earlier that I said the deep web isn't as bad as people make it out to be, and I'll still hold firm in that, but as I mentioned before as well, there are still bad things on there. Cruel Onion Wiki is a place that prides themselves on women crushing animals in a sexualized fashion. I'm talking small puppies, small kittens, little hamsters, maybe little baby bunny rabbits and stuff like that. A lot of this entire thing is very sexualized though. So the women are like in high heels or something like that, or they have like these giant like big freaking boots and stuff like that. It's clearly 100% down to the idea that this is sexualized. People get a kick out of this, and it's disgusting. What else is it? It's not normal. That's pretty dang gross. Goodness. The entire thing, oh my God, it's just gross. It's just disgusting. This isn't the first time that like these types of things have been mentioned before in like the deep web and stuff like that, but that entire thing is just awful. It's degenerate levels of stuff. I hate it. I absolutely despise it. The next thing that we got on the tier list is red rooms. Caden, didn't you just make a video like 2 weeks ago explaining how red rooms aren't real? Yeah, I did. But remember how I also said that like I had to leave at least a 0.1% chance that they might be real because of the fact that there hasn't been any recorded cases of a real red room? So yeah, this is the speculation part. So one of the most common things that people hear about from the deep web is that, ladies and gentlemen, you can see this poor man die for $5,000. Just pay $5,000. You can get entered, ladies and gentlemen, to watch this poor innocent man die. It'll only cost you $5,000, filmed in 4K, 1080p, 60 frames per second. It's not possible. Sorry. Tor can't support that. But thing is, though, is that there's countless amounts of stories that discuss red rooms and how disgusting they are, and that I came across a real one, and oh my gosh, there was like a whole live chat and such. So look, red rooms are mostly, and by mostly I mean always, speculation, but you always have to say with 99.9% certainty that they aren't real. Look, if there were red rooms, like regular citizens wouldn't be able to find that stuff. It's going to be deep down in, like, as I mentioned before, Mariana's like trench. It's not going to be here. We're not going to be able to be seeing this type of stuff just regularly. This is stuff that's like high profile criminals and stuff like that are going to be doing. So red rooms are mostly speculation, but for the most part, like, look, they're most likely not real. So I'm just going to say they're not real. But you know, as I said, it's speculation on whether they are or not, so we're just going to go with the fact that they might be, but they're probably not. The last thing that we have on this list is one that I'm not going to make any jokes about. I'm just going to have to say it flat, point blank, period, on what this is. The final point in the iceberg is Daisy's destruction. If you've never heard of Daisy's destruction, to put it as simply as possible, it is one of the most depraved, vile, disturbing, and disgusting snuff films ever made. In this depraved and horrible video, Peter Scully films himself abusing, torturing, and raping 3 innocent girls. Lisa, who is 12 years old, Cindy, who is 11, and Daisy, who is 18 months old. This video was posted around on the dark web. It's renowned as an urban legend because of how disturbing and disgusting the contents of the video are. To put it simply, everything is depraved and it's vile and it's disgusting. And the worst thing about it all is that it's real. This brings us to the end of the Iceberg, ladies and gentlemen. God, why did I do this to myself again? Iceberg videos are fun, but oh my gosh, it requires so much research. It requires so much research, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna keep this ending short because I'm tired. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed the video, why not like and subscribe? It definitely helps me out. If you didn't, why not dislike and let me know what I can improve on for next time. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you all in the next one.